available to do this interview.
Oh, anytime.
Thank you. Well, we are live, so you can start whenever you want to.
Okay, excellent. Hello, everybody. My name is Runa Magnus, and I have a very special guest here, or I shouldn't actually go there. I do it again. I go directly. I'm not even going to introduce myself. I'm going to go directly to you.
No, you should introduce yourself. You should.
You think so? Okay.
Absolutely. I want you to introduce yourself first. All
right, I'll do that too. You just tell me what to do. It's not very often, Elaine, that I do everything people tell me to do, so use it. So, all right, we'll start. Hello, Runa Magnus over here in Iceland, talking to no other than Elaine Starling, the author of Why 5% Succeed, the 5 Principles of Predictable Profit, and the host of Why 5% Succeed show and podcast. I'm so honored to have her with me today. Now, Elaine is an acknowledged thought leader and a marketing master. She's generating over, and listen to this, $100 million for her clients through innovative programs that increase participation, progress and improvement, positioning, and profit, the PPPPP. Now, Elaine is a sought-after speaker. She's a consultant, communist, mentor, and a very successful entrepreneur, teaching her unique Why 5% Succeed formula to help purposeful-driven women entrepreneurs and business owners create wealth for their clients and communicate effectively with engaging ease so that they can make a lasting difference in the world, increase their profit, and enjoy highly successful and fulfilling businesses. Wow, Elaine, first of all, I am so honored to have this opportunity to ask you a few questions. I read your book. I loved it. But my first question is about your book. Why did you originally write that? And why this book now?
You know, it's really important, especially right now, because more and more women are starting businesses. Unfortunately, they're not maintaining businesses, and their businesses aren't growing as rapidly as those that are started by men. And yet, all of our economic indicators, leaders of state, have noted that when women businesses are thriving and growing, the GDP goes up. There's a direct correlation between the GDP and the health of the economy and the health of women-owned businesses. So I wanted to write a book that's more from a feminine perspective. It applies to everybody. These are universal principles, but I wanted a book that showcased women, provided case studies and examples from other women business leaders to really exemplify what works in today's environment. What are those success principles that you can apply immediately in your business?
I really like that. And yeah, you're right. It probably does apply to both. It's very important message. But why is the 5% succeed? I mean, what is so important about that right now?
Well, the reason why it's called Why 5% Succeed is because I've done a ton of research. I've worked with lots of different companies, large Fortune 100 companies, as well as small businesses and individual entrepreneurs. And I noticed that only about 5% of the companies that I worked with, regardless of size, were really having a holistic business. They were doing business that was incredibly rewarding and fulfilling, creating great relationships where everybody got along. It was a wonderful culture. Everybody felt like they were part of an awesome team. Their reputation was solid in the marketplace. They were known for what they were doing, and they were making scads of money, very profitable. I think all 4 of those are things that you deserve to have in your business. And frankly, if any business is able to accomplish it, then you are too. And I wanted to show everybody what are those foundational concepts and strategies that truly generate success in the marketplace. And let's make sure that it goes from 5% to 95%, right? I want to flip that funnel and make sure that a lot more companies are highly successful and really fulfilled by what they do.
Yeah. So 95%. Well, next time that's going to be the question. How did you make it up to 95%, Elaine? That's going to be the next one. We'll do that maybe in a year or so. So what, in your opinion, what are the three most important things that a woman entrepreneur can do, well, needs to think about and needs to remember when it comes to success?
Well, I always start with the two critical things your clients want from you. And it's your clients, but it's also your husband, it's also your kids, it's also your best friend. Everybody wants these two things from you. First and foremost, they want your help managing fear. We are all emotionally driven. We have what I call emotional sonar. So throughout the day, you're getting in stimulation, your senses gather information, and you ask the question, what does this mean, as it comes in? And immediately you respond with, how do I feel? What does this mean? How do I feel? What does this mean? How do I feel? It's a constant sonar that you use throughout your entire day, throughout your life. And anybody who can help you feel good is a good person. You want to hang out with people who make you feel good and make you feel like you can accomplish what you want to accomplish. So managing your fear is really important. The second thing they want your help with is maintaining focus. Because life is busy. It is challenging. There are so many responsibilities that you have, especially as a working woman. You're dealing with taking care of the house, taking care of the kids and your husband, maintaining a highly successful and profitable business, keep your employees happy, keep your investors happy, keep your clients happy. It's a never-ending litany of responsibilities, and it's easy to end up like a ping pong ball, just going all over the place and feeling like you worked your tail off, but you didn't really accomplish anything. So when you can help people manage their fear and maintain that focus, that's really what they want you to do. Now, the third thing that I want to make sure everybody understands, and it's so easy to lose sight of this, you are 50% of your business. You're not 100%. You are 50%, and your client is the other 50%. Now, you've probably heard of the hero's journey. Well, one of the biggest mistakes that business owners make is they think they're the hero on this journey. No, your client is the hero on the journey, and you are their trusty sidekick. You are that informed advisor. You are that incredibly valuable friend that can help them through those challenges, help them over the rough terrain, point out all that's working, and help them get where they need to go. So it's so important to understand. It's fear, focus, and then who's the hero?
Yeah, I really like that. Especially like the part of how you're going to raise your husband there. I thought that was really interesting. But I guess it's a thing that most women actually fall into. And what you're saying is as well, you're going to put yourself in not in the second place, but like third or fourth place there. Yeah. So yeah, very, very interesting. But so what are you mentioned one mistake there, but what are the biggest mistakes you feel we should avoid as women business owners?
Well, this comes to something called the 10-80-10 rule. If you haven't read the book Survivor's Club, it's a really interesting book full of insight. But one of my favorite things that they talk about is something called the 10-80-10 rule. So here's how it goes. When the stuff hits the fan and we've got a problem, Houston, 10% of people immediately, they're leaders. They immediately take a look at the landscape, they figure out the resources, they come up with a quick plan of action, and they just move out. 10% of people just do it. 80% of people, no, they don't have a clue. They don't know what to do, but they're followers. They are looking for a leader. They're going to find that leader, and they're going to get in line and just start moving with the leader. That's what they want. So the good news is 90% of people really need you. Because leaders are always interested in other leaders. They want to know what are the best practices, who's got some new innovations that they can adopt in what they're doing. They're always researching the marketplace. And followers need leaders. So 90% of people need you. The problem is when women, we love to try to help everybody. The problem is that there's 10% of people who are in a total state of panic. They are freaking out. They cannot take direction. They cannot hear you. Literally, the brain starts to shut down and you get this tunnel vision. And I was talking about fear and the importance of managing fear. It's because fear is wired into your brain, and it is part of your non-conscious mind. You cannot control fear. It is always present. And it pushes you into 3 different states: fight, flight, or freeze. Someone can literally be frozen in panic, tears streaming down their face. They cannot cope. They can't make things happen. Or they're in a state of flight. So they're trying this tactic, that tactic. They'll run over here. They'll try this. They'll pick this up, throw that down. And they just aren't organized. They're not systemized. They're not structured. And they aren't going to be, because they're constantly trying to find something new. The fight people, it doesn't matter what advice you give them. Oh, I tried that. It doesn't work. No, that couldn't work for me. They get belligerent. They get aggressive. They get pushy. And somebody who's in that state of panic, you may have the best of intentions. You really want to serve them. You really want to help them. The best you can do, truthfully, is help them feel better about themselves. And when they get to a level of being willing to follow, and that's the best way to get yourself out of panic. Notice when you are experiencing fight, flight, or freeze, because we all do at different times for different reasons. Notice when that happens and immediately go, you know what? This is a choice. I could choose to be a follower right now. Who could I follow as a leader? What resources could I discover? How can I make myself feel a little bit better right now so that I can focus on what the plan of action is? So I think that's the biggest thing that women and all business owners struggle with. We want to serve everybody, and truthfully, we can't. So you have to know who you can help, because they are 50%. If they are not ready to show up and be there and take action, there is nothing you can do. Nothing. Just support them, encourage them, provide good information, maintain that good relationship, because they will come out of that state of panic and they'll remember how kind you were, and then they'll be ready to follow you.
That's an interesting perspective. So basically, when you understand that you are in fact the leader, that there is someone who is already following you, and you know you're clear on your own fear and you're clear on your own focus and you're getting there, then keeping that focus and being open to listen to those that you know are not actually going to take any advice, but you give them kind of like space. Isn't that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
You give them space, but you have to carry on leading your own life and going through the things. It's quite interesting, actually. And another thing as well, like you're saying, I like that thing. You know, sometimes you go through this obviously yourself with that fear thing, that you become more aware of. Okay, now I am in the fear thing. Now, who is my leader? Yeah, that is interesting. It's quite interesting. I really like the whole concept in your book, and I think that too. You know, you and I, we share quite a lot of similar theories when it comes to secret of successes. What are, in your mind, what are really the main secrets of creating a success?
Well, I like to structure things around 3 different components. First, it's the mindset. And surprisingly enough, it's not your mindset, it's the mindset of your customer. Really getting into the mind of your customer, understanding her needs, her desires, her wishes, so that you can serve her better. The second thing is the message. And this is the message that your client needs to hear before she can really absorb the information from you. There's a certain way she needs to hear information from you so that she's receptive enough to actually adopt it and see some success with you. And then the third thing is the media. It's all the touch points that your client has throughout the day. And again, we were talking about how people can be easily distracted. Again, with media, it's all those touch points, all the different ways she's gathering in information and figuring out how to apply it, and how do you help her focus so that she's far more effective in what she does. I find the old 80-20 rule is so true. People spend about 20% of the time doing the things that really move them forward the fastest. So what I like to do is look at how we can leverage your activities so that you get a much higher return on your investment. We want you to be really successful really quickly, and focus is super important. So it's the mindset, the message, and the media that really matter.
Yeah, exactly. Keeping that mindset going, that can be a challenging thing. I like how you put things up in the, it's the 3 M's: mindset, message, media. It's good for a brain like mine to remember it. Thank you. So what are the surprising ways to increase your successes, in your opinion?
It all starts by making people feel better about themselves. So I know this is going to seem super simple, but when you walk in the room, do you walk with your shoulders back, your head up, and a big smile on your face? Do you welcome people even though you're not the host? Do you help people find what they need? Do you really listen and ask insightful questions so that you understand the situation someone's facing, and acknowledge them for all they've accomplished to get this far? Because so often people forget that they've done a lot to get to where they are now. They're focused on the current problem, but honey, it's a nice problem to have. Look at the other ones you already fixed, right? And so often they discount what they've been able to accomplish. So if you can be really present for someone else, and that's honestly 95% of what they want is your presence, that really opens doors for you. And then you can get permission to provide some perspective. But one of the challenges people have is they're so often jumping into, let me just solve the question, I've got the answer. But if they're not ready to hear it because you didn't use the right message, and they're not ready, you're 50%, right? You're half, and they're the other half. They're not ready. You got to make sure they're ready, and then you can really serve them.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like talking to a wall if they're not ready. You can it doesn't even echo back. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, you're right, and I like that. I really like that thought, and I think you can, even though it sounds simple, and I'm all for simplicity, but that thought of just listening and not interfering is so powerful. Thank you for reminding us. So tell me another thing. How can our audience increase their successes right now? I mean, we're coming to a certain place in the year, and how can they start right now?
What I always do with my clients is first we take a look at the mindset of their customer and how their client is really feeling about things, because we want to get deep into the emotions. I really take a look at the 4 different kinds of currency that you create for your clients. First of all, take a look at the emotional currency you create for your clients. It's how you make your clients feel better and the reassurance that you give them. Setting expectations is really key to helping someone feel better. Let me give you an example. You walk into a Starbucks, for example, and you want to get a cup of coffee, you want to get a cup of tea, something, it's a blustery day, and you want something, and you're not sure what you want. You're not really, you're figuring it out. So they ask you a series of questions. Do you want something hot or do you want something cold? I'd like something hot, thank you. Do you want a tall, grande, or a venti? What size would you like? Then they want to know if you're more into a coffee drink or a tea drink. Do you want something blended? They have a series of questions that they can ask you to allow you to co-create with them so that you create exactly the solution you want. And the more your client is embedded in participating to create the solution, the more they own it, the more they're ready to buy it because they created it. You helped, but they created it, so they're ready to buy. So the first thing we look at is the emotional currency. The second thing is the relationship currency. Again, with Starbucks. When you go to a Starbucks pretty regularly, they know your favorite drink. They might have even named it after you, right? You have this relationship with the barista because you go in there often enough and they make you feel good over and over again. That's all a relationship really is. You want relationships with people who make you feel good. So you go again and again. The third thing is reputation or influence currency. Now, one of the things that Starbucks does is they make it really easy for you to take them with you. Mm-hmm. Let me give you an example. You're having a business meeting. You've got some important clients coming into your office. Well, you can serve bottled water. I highly recommend that you do that. Now, how does your reputation change when you provide the bottled water and you provide fresh Starbucks coffee with a selection of pastries too? How does that make you look? You look pretty good, don't you? All of a sudden, you look like somebody who's very caring, somebody who is insightful, somebody who's clearly doing pretty well. Otherwise, you wouldn't be offering prospective clients great high-end coffee and pastries, right? You don't look desperate. You look like somebody who's really thoughtful and considerate and a player. So they're allowing you to leverage their reputation and increase your own influence by taking them with you. You can do that for your clients too. That's one of the things that I work with my clients on. And then the fourth thing that you do is you actually create revenue for your clients. It's financial currency. And I talk about financial currency in 3 different ways. How do you help your clients make more money? And I work with my clients to document that. How do you help your clients save more money? And that's another thing that you can document. And how do you make your clients feel like $1,000,000? Because I got to tell you, if you've ever been to a spa, ever get a great haircut, ever buy a new lipstick just that makes you feel so hot, yeah, you buy things because they make you feel good. That's currency. That's confidence in a bottle. And yes, people will pay for that. So those are the 4 different currencies that I look at and that I really encourage my clients to look at. And every single business should really be thinking about their business in this context. How do you create currency for your clients?
Again, you go into the feeling. The important feeling. There. Yeah. I mean, we do buy from other people that we know, we like, we trust. And so definitely that is. But I making your clients feel like $1,000,000, that's something special. That's something very special. But tell me then another thing. Okay, these are the things that we should do, but what are the things that we should never do?
I know, that's one of those challenging things, right? Because we want to be all things to all people, and we want to solve every problem under the universe, right? We're women. We're large and in charge, and we're convinced we can make the world work. And the challenging thing, and something you truly have to just decide you're going to bite the bullet and go for, you have to narrow your own focus and serve a small group of people. It's instead of trying to serve the entire world, it's identify clients, prospects, that you can truly make a massive difference for those people, and identify a niche within that group where you can focus your attentions, because your business will escalate dramatically the more you get really focused on who you can serve and serve quickly.
Yeah. Sounds like this sounds real, Elaine. It does sound real. It really do. But can you share with us maybe a story or something that can tell us how you can create, just a simple thing that you can create simple successes? I mean, I know you shared a few, but stories are always so good.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I've done with my clients is I first start by having them put together what I call a values poster. So I've seen this kind of thing in different stores before, also at my doctor's office, where they identify their top 5 values of things that they truly are trying to embody in their business. This is what I do with my clients. So sit down, identify the top 5 values that you embody in your business. This is what you're trying to convey. It could be excellence. It could be consistency. It could be availability. whatever those things are for you that are really important, that you value most when you shop and you go to a business, when you hire an expert like you, what are the values you're looking for from that person? And those should be the values that you identify for yourself. Then, for each one of those values, brainstorm specific actions and behaviors, things that you do, and because you do that, that's illustrating that this is your value. And you put together a poster. So, you know, Starbucks, they will talk about how they buy from plantations, and they do the fair trade with those kinds of plantations, and they deliberately select a specific kind of coffee that's really good for the environment, and they're very focused on that sort of thing. So when they talk about we're committed to excellence in business, and this is one of the examples of how we deliver excellence in business. We only buy fair trade coffee, and we support this kind of, so you illustrate the things that you're doing that illustrate your values and how your client will benefit by working with you because they share those same values. When you have that kind of a poster up in your office and your employees can see it, your clients can see it, you have something like that on your website, it's really a foundation that starts to guide a lot of the communication that you share with others. And it's a foundational point for your videos, for your emails, for everything that you do, truly. Because people feel you first. Their emotional sonar is out there. And everything that you do is illustrating who you are being. Literally, how you're thinking in the moment determines how you show up. And how you show up determines everything you get to have. So figure out how you can show up from a place of strength, a place of joy, and a place of gratitude. And that will serve you immensely.
Yeah, it definitely will. And I so agree with you with the value part. And making even many people think that it's a value that you should pick out of like a list of values, but really giving yourself the opportunity to dig into what are these values and how can I honor them and what happens when I'm not honoring them. It really goes down to a lot of things. And when you're making decisions, are they linked to my values, or am I, yeah, it's a really, really good point there. So I believe, Elaine, that you know quite a bit of secrets that people like you who are experts in helping other people, well, coming 95% of them to succeed. So what are the secrets that the pros such as you know that the players such as we, the rest of us, don't know, that you can share with us? And I promise I won't share it. You just tell me.
No, I want you to share. I want you to share these secrets because I think it's important that women in business own their own abilities and really rise to the occasion. I think one of the things that leaders realize is not everybody is ready at the same time. If you're at all familiar with online marketing, when you run a marketing campaign and you're trying to get people to opt in for your newsletter or whatever it is, when you're speaking out to a community, only about 3 to 4% of them are going to respond and opt in. It doesn't mean that the rest of the people think you're worthless or your information isn't good. It just means they're not at the right space right now. So you can talk to them several times and encourage them when they're ready to opt in and become a part of your community. So the key thing is, so often you get trapped in this thinking that, oh, it must be me. There must be something wrong with me, that I'm doing something incorrectly. No, people are caught in fear and have a distinct lack of focus. They're just all over the place. And it takes about 9 times of hearing something again and again and again, 9 times before you're really going to understand it and incorporate it. If you don't believe me, think about a movie that you've seen and your favorite movie. You saw it a second time, you caught new details. Saw it a third time, there was even more there. It's the same in business. It's the same with your prospects. So one of the things that leaders know, that top 5% know, is not everybody's ready, and it's important to repeat what you're doing. have really good content that truly makes a difference for people, don't be afraid to just stick with that same content and say it over and over and over again in slightly different ways, using various modalities, video, audio, written word, anything you can do to communicate your message. Stick with that message, because that's where your sweet spot is. And too often we think, oh, that's old, I'm going to just get rid of that and start off with something new. No, true leaders stay the course. They keep their focus, they maintain momentum, because they don't give up. And you shouldn't give up either.
No, I promise I won't.
Good.
And this goes really back to what you were saying regarding having focus and understanding that you're not talking to everyone. So basically, if your message is extremely clear and you're talking to your targeted group, then you will actually get more response to signing up for your newsletter or whatever the freebies that you're doing, because you are focused. So yeah. And can you imagine 9 times when it comes to the social media, maybe this touching point has changed a bit with all the things that are going on around us. Speaking of challenges, can you teach us something about a hidden challenge or an issue that most businesses are facing today, and how to overcome it?
Yeah, most businesses are really freaking out because they need to get money in the door like yesterday would be good. Mm-hmm. And the problem with that is you're so focused on the revenue, where's the money, you start doing business backwards. And this again has to do with a mindset, because you're stuck in your own mindset instead of being stuck in your client's mindset. Your mindset may or may not be, but one of the mistakes is the mindset is, where's the money? I need revenue, I need it yesterday. And when the revenue's coming in, then my reputation's going to be made. Everybody's going to know who I am. Phone's going to ring off the wall. I won't have to cold call anymore. It's just going to be taking orders as fast as I can. That's groovy. And when my reputation is really solid, I'll get to have these incredible relationships with people I've admired for years. I'll be on speed dial with Runa. Awesome. Can't wait. Hoorah. And then you really have to push them. You really have to dig deep. And they finally start talking about those incredibly rewarding experiences where they're going to get to show up with their skills, their insights. They're going to be in the zone. They're going to be just so thrilled that they can make a meaningful difference for people. And it's just that miracle experience that we all love, of being in flow, being in the zone, and just having a blast. Well, how do you get all 4 of those things? You have to look at it from your client's perspective. And it all starts with that rewarding experience. It starts with being in flow. It starts with feeling your own power and knowing your own skills and abilities and truly being there filled with joy and delight to serve. Because when you show up and you create an incredibly rewarding experience for somebody else, that's when they want a relationship with you. That's when they want to have that rewarding experience over and over again. So they'll buy from you again and again. They'll read your newsletter. They'll respond to your posts. They'll start to interact with you, and that's what you really want. Once the relationship is solid, the irony here is that you don't own your reputation. Your relationships own your reputation. Your relationships tell the rest of the world who you are being for them. So you make it really easy for them to spread the word about who you are, what you're doing, and the value that you've created for them. You make it easy. You provide a platform for them to talk on and bring it to the world. And when those 3 things are aligned, the revenue is unavoidable. The money comes in the door because people will pay for a rewarding experience. If you've ever bought a cup of coffee, if you've ever had your nails done, if you've ever gotten a massage, you've paid for a rewarding experience. People will pay for a relationship. We also call that process improvement. People will pay to be able to go to an event and spend time with somebody. People will pay for a reputation. They'll pay for access. Buying ads in the Wall Street Journal, buying ads on television on the Super Bowl. People pay for reputation and positioning all the time. And people pay for money, for revenue. We call them investment advisors. And people who are investing in your business, they do that because they're paying you to make money for them. So all of these things are interrelated, and really what I'm trying to do for people, we get so caught up in the details, we're like staring at our business like this, and then we can't figure out what's going on. So with all the work that I do, and what my book is designed to do, is really help you step back and get that 30,000-foot view of your business, and then start slicing through it from different directions, from different angles, different perspectives, and all of a sudden, you'll get a new take on something, and it's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. What you're doing, 98% of what you're doing is absolutely right. There's that 2% and tiny little shifts. Your car is going 100 miles an hour. We don't have time to yank the wheel. You know, we're not interested in a wreck. We're interested in going in the right direction. So it's a tiny little shift that makes massive results for your business. That's really the key thing.
Yeah, I love that. The little baby steps, being aware, and that little baby steps that are the shaking and making the change for you. I really like that. I really like it. So you're saying basically, you said you don't create your own reputation. Is that what you said?
So basically what happens is you decide how you want to show up, those values that are so important to you. Yeah. You decide who you're going to be in the world and the kinds of folks you want to serve, the kinds of relationships you want to have. So you set that part. But then in terms of communicating who you are, your relationships are really instrumental in spreading the word about you and establishing your reputation. Sure. You set your standards. I think you assign your own standards, but others establish your reputation.
Absolutely. And so it's how the feeling that you leave behind in other people's mindsets that then goes back to you regarding to what type of people do you hang out with, that then positions your brand as well. I'm thinking branding here. So and so that's what you mean by you constantly, it's like a wheel, you're constantly doing that, just being aware of that. And yeah, and often, and I like that what you say about staying in the flow of things. I think everyone knows the feeling when everything is just going there instead of going poof, not happening. Yeah. I kind of like, it's like when everyone is an idiot around you, then you think, who is the biggest idiot? That's yourself, isn't it? So, and you know what? When those days come, when we don't feel that we're in the flow, and often we feel those days are a disaster. Is there a way that we can avoid these disasters, or can we maybe embrace them?
You know, that's a really good point. And Runa, I think one of the biggest challenges is we feel this huge desire to control everything, right? Yeah. So we try to grab onto it. Now the challenge is your brain is incredibly powerful, and there are two different components to your brain. There's the non-conscious mind and the conscious mind. The conscious mind likes to think it's in control, but in reality, if you want to compare the two, imagine that you're standing up and the space underneath your feet represents your conscious mind. Well, your non-conscious mind, just to give you a little comparison, it's 20 square miles in all directions. And it's way powerful, and it's your emotional brain. It's running the show. And it's like a big, massive, playful puppy that just loves you. And it wants you to have everything you've ever wanted. And this puppy is very playful. So however you show up, whatever you throw out to your puppy as a little stick to play with the puppy will bring right back to you. So if you're in a bad mood and you're really grumpy and you're complaining and you're saying, oh, this irritates me, your puppy's going to bring you back something that irritates you because it thinks, hey, she wants to know all the things that drive her nuts. I can do that. Sure, I'll bring you tons of examples of the things that drive you crazy. So if you can instead step back and think, okay, I need to just relax. It starts with breathing really deeply, letting that relaxation go throughout your body, and recognizing that it's that 20% of activities that you do that get 80% of the results. Mm-hmm. So instead of just acting and taking action for action's sake, take the time to relax and decompress. Know that there are resources out there that will serve you. Know that you have the time to get things done and accomplish what you need to accomplish. And it's amazing how things will shift for you. When you think you're having a bad day, in reality, every single thing around you is a blessing. It's designed to remind you of the skills that you have and that you always have a choice. You have a choice to freak out and go into a state of panic, knock yourself out. It's not a lot of fun. Doesn't get you anywhere, but it's your choice. Or you have the opportunity to become more present and figure out, I want to be a follower right now, or I can step up and be a leader in this situation. I can make people feel good about themselves right now. Instead of having it be all about me, I can make it all about them. And when I do that, everything shifts. So I just invite people, if you're having a bad day, realize it's designed to be a blessing. It's designed to remind you that other people have it a lot worse than you do, that you've got a lot of great skills and resources, and it's just a matter of choice. If you choose to step up, you can have a great day.
Yeah, I like that. So it's really, and it comes back to your mindset and focus. Mindset and focus, like you started up with. But can I ask you then one question? When we stand on a special place today in the world that we're living in today, where do you see in your business, where do you see the next 12 months where will we be? Or I'm going to rephrase the question. Where do you see the changes will happen in our world within the next 12, 18 months? What's going to be different from what we have today, in your opinion?
I think women are coming together in a whole new way. Women are really stepping up. We are recognizing, and part of what I love about working with women is they bring everybody with them. They bring the men, they bring the kids, they bring other women. Women are 7 times more likely to share than men are. And men call it gossiping, we call it sharing, because we know that a rising tide lifts all boats. It's a really great expression, and it's there for a reason, because when we come together to connect and contribute to each other and collaborate for a better world, it happens every single time. And what I'm seeing increasingly is women getting into the business world and stepping up, reaching out to other women, finding ways to connect and contribute and collaborate with each other. And when that happens, miracles occur. Within the next 12 months, there are going to be some pretty profound changes in terms of how women in business are collaborating with leaders in their countries and really talking about political influence and how do we address policies so that we can improve policies to make them fair for women business owners. We need the equivalent access to capital. We need information and resources that are available to male-owned businesses much more readily than to female-owned businesses. And so as women come together, and again, it's not a confrontation at all, it's a collaboration. We have a very collaborative mindset. We're going to people at the highest levels in government and in society to talk about how we can come together to truly make things work, because when women-owned businesses are successful, the GDP goes right up, the economy increases, everybody feels better. It's just a better vibe, and I see that happening in an increasingly rapid pace.
Exactly. So if you would just take out that crystal ball that I'm sure you have somewhere around you, and you would look into it and say, okay, in 12 months' time, what will what do you see the outcome in the bigger perspective? And I'm not only talking about the business world. I mean, what's going to happen to families? What do you see as a result of this whole thing? Because we are all interconnected, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and thank you for calling me on it, because, you know, in theory, this is a business book. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, kinda. It's a business book, but it's also a relationship book. It's also a spiritual book. It's a unifying concept that's been presented under the guise of business and with that context of business, because that's what a lot of people relate to. And I see that there's a strong need in that area. But frankly, just imagine what your life would be like if you recognize what anybody wants from you is to just feel a little bit better about themselves. Yeah. And frankly, they can't make you feel better about you until you make them feel better about them. So what if you started reaching out to people with that mindset, with that perspective, knowing that everything you give comes back to you tenfold, not necessarily from the exact same person, because they might be in a state of panic. They might not be ready to be a follower. They might not be in a position to reflect back for you the things you need to hear. And you have to be perceptive enough and proud of yourself enough to say, hey, I stepped up and I was there for someone, I was present for someone, even when they couldn't be present for me. So you can show up and really be present for these people, and when it's appropriate, ask if they're ready for your perspective. And if they are, they're eager for it and they're willing to pay for it. They really want to engage with you on an ongoing basis. And how do they pay for it? With emotional currency, with relationship currency, with influence currency, and financial currency. They make you feel like $1 million. So yeah, it can transform your entire world. If you take this on, you will see a difference today in your relationships right now. And you will see a transformation in your business within about 2 months. It's pretty exciting.
So just by, as an example, you set yourself the intention or the goal in the beginning of the day that you're going to make 5 people, I'm just giving a number because you say 5%. So 5 people, I'm going to make 5 people feel good about themselves today. That could be something that would actually make the change for you, which is fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Could I share one more thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so a little more training. So you want to be present for someone. In fact, you want to be present for everybody you meet. It's great to set a number of 5 people, but I would challenge you to step up and be present for every single person you encounter, because you think your life is just business and just home and just spiritual and just private. It's not. Everything's interconnected, everything's interwoven. So the better you can show up across the board, the better everything does. So you show up being fully present for someone else. And first of all, that means you are aware of where their attention is, because wherever their attention is where they're going to go. And whatever they're focusing on is where they're going to go. That might not be the direction they want to go in. It's really well known that when they're teaching race car drivers to drive really, really fast speeds, they tell them, always look where you want the car to go. Don't look at the big tree. Don't look at the other car. Look where you want to go, because that's where you're going to go. And too often people are distracted. They're not focusing on the right thing. So first, get awareness for yourself of where their focus is. Then call attention to the fact that you see where their focus is and ask them if that's really where they want their focus to be. If it is, if they just want to have a pity party, okay, you can listen, right? You can be present for them. But you want them to get where they truly want to go. So you can ask for clarity. Is this really where you want to be? No, that's not where I want to be. Okay, so let's focus on where you truly want to be. Then you acknowledge them for all of the things that they have brought to the party. Because so often people think that they're there with empty pockets, and they're not. You walk in the door with the skills that you have, with the resources that you have, with the connections that you have. And so often you think it's all on you. and it's not. You got to get out of that panic mode and into that follower and leader mode, and that's when things really happen. So you start with awareness, then attention, then acknowledge, and then you have a chance to move on. If they're willing to hear your perspective, you go into appreciate the opportunities that are present for them and suggest one action step, just one. Because people are so distracted, you can't tell them more than one thing at a time. If you can tell them just one thing to do, and they do it and they see the results, and you can tell them this is how you know you did it right, they'll get that momentum going. So I really invite you to be present for every single person in your life today. See if you can step up and be there for them first. And I know you've got the same needs, and sometimes your husband, your daughter, your coworker can step up for you, and sometimes they can't. But if you can be there for them today, believe me, word spreads like wildfire, and it will come back to you 10 times over from a variety of different locations.
The boomerang effect. Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we're coming to the last question. This has been so insightful. I have a bunch of notes over here that I'm really enjoying this. But my last question to you, what are really at the end of this, what are the things or the most important thought that you want to leave behind in our mindsets, the ones who are listening to you today?
The most important thought, you are incredibly valuable. You are really, really needed and timely. Oh, I get upset. I get emotional about this because it means so much to me. And people don't credit themselves. People don't think they have what it takes. You have exactly what you need to be incredibly successful right now. You don't need anything extra. You don't need a new degree. You don't need a silver spoon in your mouth when you were born. You don't need to know just the right people. You just need to start. You need to start with where you are, with who you are, because you're valuable. You can make a huge difference. And one thing that a lot of folks don't know about, research has been done that shows you have influence over your friends, friends. It's been documented. So the way you show up and when you do good for someone else, when you're present for someone else, you make them feel good about themselves, the word spreads. What you talk about, the way you think, spreads to all of your friends. Say on average, people know about 300 people. I know you don't think that's true, but you do. You know about 300 people. So you impact those 300. Well, you also impact every single one of them and their network. That's 97,000. And you impact those people and their 300, which is 27 million. So you actually influence 27,092,300 people, and that's just by showing up. That's just by being who you are. That's before you start using Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube and communicating with thousands of people around the globe. And if you're on Facebook, you're only a little over 4 people away from anybody else on Facebook, including the Pope, the Dalai Lama, and heads of state. Mm-hmm. So if you think you don't have influence, if you think you don't matter, baloney, you do. You have incredible influence, you have amazing power, and all it takes is opening the door, stepping out, putting your shoulders back, putting a big smile on your face, and being present for others.
Elaine, thank you for sharing what I call your X Factor. You have an incredible X Factor that is changing people's lives, that are changing the way women think about how to succeed and how they can build a business that is profitable, that is purposeful, that has a meaning, and most of all, gives them the joy of being present and having what they want in their lives. Thank you so much for the time today.
It has been such an honor to chat with you today. Thank you for interviewing me, and I can't wait to have another conversation soon.
I do hope so.